So we're live. Okay. Good morning, Mount Vernon. This is the Mount Vernon Industrial Development Agency meeting. It is February 18th, 2025. I am standing in for the chair, Mayor Sean Patterson Howard, who is out on a personal matter this morning. So we're going to proceed with the meeting as the agenda that has been provided. It is now 10:09 p.m. So we're going to call this meeting to order and call for the roll call.
Calling for the roll. Treasurer Darren Morton.
We got to call with the chair.
I'm sorry. Calling Chair calling Chair Patterson Howard.
Excuse.
Okay. Calling Treasurer Darren Morton.
Here.
Calling Member Stephanie Vanderpool.
Here.
Calling Member Brian Johnson.
Here.
And calling non-voting member Chris McDonough.
Present.
And that completes the roll.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the January 9th, 2025 minutes, which was distributed to the members of the board. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from January 9, 2025?
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes from January 9th of 2025.
Second.
We'll probably move the second. Is there
For
roll call?
the roll call, is there a question?
Here.
Hearing none, proceeding with Chair Patterson Howard is not present, so she won't vote. Treasurer Morton,
Aye.
Member Vanderpool,
Aye.
and Member Johnson.
Aye.
Okay.
So minutes have been approved for the last meeting. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the financial report. As we again look at the finances of the agency, they haven't changed much. In January, of course, we paid out the pilots that have been received to the various jurisdictions that were due to them. So we paid out $538,114. We brought in as an income $114. I'm sorry. And so interest was $273, which is a total of $538,387 as income. Our expenditures was just related in January to the salary of the staff member, $8,403, bringing basically a net earnings of $529,984. When you look at the balance sheet items, again, we have the 5 different accounts in which we are tracking the various monies. And so the escrow account, remember the escrow accounts are those monies that the projects had to pay in escrow, and we keep those for if there's some reason for why they cannot pay. The board can choose to go there to get the money in order, especially when it comes to the pilots of paying the other entities. $850,140 in that account. A money market account is $814.63. The pilot account, which means the money that we've received in that also then have to be paid out to the other entities in the next payment period, $912,084. Operating account is $930,592. And then we have as receivables the money that still is going to need to be received for this period, $166,212, bringing the assets to $3,673,091. Liabilities are those that have to be paid out. We have payables of 22,799, and then the pilots, which equals amounts that we have holding in our account, 912,084. When you look at basically the cash flow of it, at the end of the day, the cash balance is 1,842,676. When you look at the pilot payments, as we have said before, we've done a pretty good job at receiving it. We now have, I think there are 4 that are outstanding at this point. Remember that they pretty much pay their pilot payments in 2 segments of the year. And so we have our accountant who is definitely reaching out to them, as he has done in the other periods, to receive those monies. And so we're looking forward to receiving that from those entities. When you also then look at the actual administrative fees, we have basically the 2 that are again outstanding. Dominican Magic, which we'll talk about today, and Regent Hospitality Linen Services. Total of 12,857 and 72 cents for that. So that's the financial report for IDA. Is there a motion?
Questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm doing your job.
Is there a motion to accept the financial report?
I move that we accept the financial report.
Any questions?
No, I second.
I'm gonna give a second first. Any questions? If not, roll call.
Calling roll, Chair Patterson Howard, who is absent, Treasurer Morton,
Aye.
Member Vanderpool,
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
Okay.
So move. Moving on to the business development report.
So for this segment of today's meeting, I have one report out. I am Robin Mack, the Director of Business Development for the Industrial Development Agency. February 6, 2025, we planned an information session for New York State registered construction trades. So that would be general contractors, electricians, plumbers, and that was for the purpose to support the Industrial Development Agency's goal to have 30% participation of MWBE and 6% participation of service disabled veteran-owned businesses participate in development projects here in the city of Vernon. Due to low enrollment, we had to postpone that session, and we are now looking at dates for early April. We have participating so far in that information session, the Con Ed, who is doing a geothermal energy network project here in the city of Mount Vernon. We have New York State Empire Development Corp coming down to speak about becoming MWBE certified. We also have the Departments of Buildings and Public Works to discuss how a general contractor would utilize OpenGov to submit permits, and then also how that general contractor, electrician, so on and so forth, can become a registered business entity with the city of Mount Vernon. We are seeking participation with MTA, given that MTA has expressed interest in projects here in the city of Mount Vernon, and we'll also be extending the invite to the developers who have more recently broken ground, 115 McCleston Parkway for one, QS Project, who will be closing on their project in the very near future, And, we'll be breaking ground shortly thereafter. And then any other developers who are interested in doing business here in the city, we'd like them to also participate. I will keep the board informed with the new date for that information session, and we'll report out accordingly. Any questions? Okay,
Any questions at this time from the board?
okay, thank you.
I move to accept the report.
Oh, well, we typically don't do that. I didn't. Just
You can take it as information.
Okay.
correct.
I know that you've been sending out this stuff for because it's for the SBA, Small Business Administration, loans.
I have.
Right, that's due on February 18th.
So
Right.
the deadline has been extended to March 13th, I believe. And so,
And that's primarily for economic injury, right? Because when I think, the deadline is passed for the physical damage.
correct.
And that's for the period of, if there was the time when there were those storms in July of 2024.
So that loan, economic injury, is connected to the Hurricane Ida disaster. And let me pull up that information. I have been distributing information to the business community of, that opportunity available to them. And the dates of those storms, July 9th through July 10th, 2024.
Okay, and that's for, and that's
That's-
for homes
That's
too, but
for homeowners, for businesses, anyone impacted.
nonprofits too.
Yeah.
So just kind of want to put it out there because I know there's been emails going out, but they've been, from your perspective, right, they've been pointed, but I also want to make sure that the homeowners actually know that there's
Yeah.
still this opportunity for you, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. All right. If that's it, and we'll move on to the next item, which seems to be a resolution. And that is a resolution approving payment of invoices, correct?
Correct.
You want me
So,
to take this one?
yes, if you would.
So, in addition to the 5 invoices that are listed on the resolution, there is an additional one that came in yesterday that I'd like to add. So the first is Board of Water Supply for the February healthcare premium. The second item is Valuation Plus in the amount of $14,250, and that's for the appraisals at various properties on 4th Avenue and South 3rd Avenue, I'm sorry, 4th Avenue and 3rd Avenue that occurred in 2024, late in the year. Invoices to Harris Beach Mirtha for December 2024 and January 2025. Item number 4 is to the New York State and local retirement system, $10,170, and that's the 2025 regular pension contribution. Item number 5 is $18.90 to JP Morgan Chase. That's a credit card charge for filing the 2024 1099 forms. And then the last item is to RBT CPAs. Those are the auditors, the amount of $285 for a Trillion lease and annual service billing leases for a software for the audit. So those are the items before you for payment.
Okay, you've heard is there a motion?
I make a motion to amend resolution 2024-1, 25-1.
To include the invoice from RPT.
Correct.
And that amount is 200 and,
It is $285.
right, $285. Okay. Is there,
Is there a second?
Yes,
I second it.
okay, is there a question? So I'll add. So yeah, we received this last, I guess recently, I guess it was might have been earlier this week or the latter or Friday of last week. From them, I had the accountant to inquire from them exactly what this was for. And it's actually for the kind of leasing of the kind of the software and stuff that we were using to actually calculate some stuff for the audits. So because I wanted to make sure that the accountant verified what it actually was. So that's what that is. Is there any questions about that? About was we on amendment first? Okay,
Right.
roll call.
So roll call.
You don't tell them.
Okay. Treasurer Morton,
Aye.
Member Vanderpool,
Aye.
Member Johnson.
Aye.
All right, so now we're to the adopting of the amended resolution. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt the amended resolution.
I second.
Okay.
All right, questions?
Any questions?
So, just to give context, I guess, and clarity, because it might be. So, one, our health, right, or because the way in which the health system is set up, there's really only one account for the city of Mount Vernon, but then there's a sub account. They've only done one other sub account, which was the health is the water department. So, agency, folks associated with agencies, we agreed that we had a memorandum of understanding with the water department that our employee actually would fall under their sub account. And then what happens is that the agency reimburses the water department. The water department reimburses the city for all of its employees. And the city pays the bill. So that's how that happens.
That's
in case
the-
somebody has a question about how the health, insurance thing works. Then the other, which is interesting, the $10,000 for the retirement thing. Retirement, I think, as I explained in my other hat, as the comptroller, explained to the public that the interesting thing is the way New York State works is that you pay the insurance, retirement at the beginning of their year
Oh,
early up. So the entire premium gets billed to the municipality. And it's due February 1st, actually. So I'm praying we actually executed. Well, we probably paid it because it probably is tied into the city. I don't know, but I got to go back and double check. Not getting hit with any interest, because what they will do is they will charge you. Remember, I had that my first year when I became comptroller, that we couldn't pay it, and they were charging like 100 and 200 and some odd dollars a day
Yes, penalties.
as penalty. And so you want to avoid from that happening. So that's the reason why that needs to be paid now for 2025, because it's a bill that she gets it to there. And just clarity, the 14,250 is the money that comes from the amount that we got from Sentinel, right?
the Penrose
That's
Sentinel
not
problem.
really a charge to the agency. They take out. All right, that's it.
So the funds will be drawn from their escrow account. And then they will replenish their escrow account as additional expenses as related to the transaction occur.
Okay.
So
Well,
roll call, Treasurer Morton,
aye.
Member Vanderpool.
Aye.
And Member Johnson.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Moving on to old business, Dominican Magic.
That's Darius.
Ms. Darius. Mhm.
Darius?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Dominican Magic.
Dominican Magic. Yes, I did get an email. I did speak to the person from Dominican Magic and got that email, which I think I forwarded to Robin, who
Mhm.
wants to get into a payment plan. My math had him owing us, forget the exact number. It's in the email, Robin. I forget the exact number.
Yeah, it's a little-
And he wants to start paying $20,000 and $10,000 for the next 6 months each month. He'd still be way in arrears, but it's either that or we try to claw back everything and probably put him out of business. Ultimately, it's the board's decision if we enter into agreement with him to pay the outstanding pilot payments and administrative fees, as well as the fees for collection. I think it's probably a good idea, but I'm not going to, let's get some money in the door. Let's work with him and see if he can hold up his end of the bargain at least now. That would be my advice.
Can I, go ahead. Yeah, I just want to add, I don't know if you have permission to talk about this, so we won't get into the details, but I thought in the email, we said it was due to health issues that was
Yes.
part of it. And, okay.
Yes.
So I'll leave it there.
Yes.
So it wasn't just the complete disregard that the owner had some health
Correct.
issues that prevented them from being responsive?
And
That's what he said on the phone to me and in the email. Yes, Brian.
And so he's proposed a series of payments, 6 payments, to initiate in February and in September, which would get him back on point. Thankfully, his health is now more normalized and he's able to get back to work. And so he's asking for this payment plan to bring the arrears current.
Robin, if the board was inclined, we could prepare an agreement for the next meeting for the board to consider. And then I would ask him for, some money right away, even before we enter into that agreement as a sign of good faith. And then you can consider the agreement at the next meeting, board.
Okay, so let's have a discussion. Mr. McDonough.
So I have a couple of questions about how much of Dominican Magic's operations are in Mount Vernon. Because I looked into them and they have a main warehouse where they do business in Yonkers. You can go and look on their website. They have videos showing that's where, so their jobs in their main 27,000 square foot warehouse where they produce their products is in Yonkers. So why are they getting these tax abatements from us if their main operations are in Yonkers and they're employing people in Yonkers? And as a follow-up to that, is the Yonkers IDA providing them with a pilot? And as you saw, I tracked that they've had $327,000 in abated taxes since 2016. They're $146,000 behind on the payments that they should be making to us. So this, I'm sympathetic to the gentleman's health issues, but I'm also sympathetic to our community, our school district, and the people who are carrying this. So I think, number one, we need to understand how much of their operation is actually in Mount Vernon versus Yonkers, and how much of any sales tax revenue that they're generating is going to Yonkers versus Mount Vernon.
And so we would have to review the pilot agreement to see under what conditions we would bring Dominican Magic back to the table to initiate that discussion. If the pilot agreement doesn't speak about, hey, if you don't keep X percentage of your operations in the city, then we may or may not have.
But may not enforce it. It was a bad deal. It didn't say, hey, you have to keep.
And so, and so right now, that means that we'll have to look a little, and thank you for raising that. We'll have to take a look at what the agreement was.
Yeah, I was surprised. I started poking around their website, the Q&A, and there's a recent video, you can see it, where they're doing a walkthrough of their factory in Yonkers,
And-
27,000.
In regards to the factory in Yonkers, when did they purchase that? Did they purchase that prior to,
I don't have any.
Mount Vernon?
Right.
We don't know if they purchased it or leased it. We could find some more information on all of this and about their operations and how they operate in Vernon and Yonkers and presented back even before the meeting. We can do that. The issue, Member McDonough, about the sales tax, that's a formula. So you're not going to be able to determine that amount that Mount Vernon gets versus another community for sales tax on any purchase or when they built it. But the other issues, we can surely do an analysis and present it to the board members.
Well, yeah, that would be, the sales tax issue would be determined based upon where it is that the sales actually occurs, right? Or what it is that they're using Now they're reporting to the actual comptroller's office or the taxation office as to what their right. So to Dr. McDonough's point though, that similar to the situation that we had where I had to look into the Bronxville field house, right, is to kind of determine are they properly actually their paperwork there properly saying where their sales actually is happening. Now, maybe their sales is not happening here, maybe it's the warehouse piece here and the sales piece is there.
Correct.
Then that means that there's really is no kind of abatement. We got to really look at the contract, I guess, the agreement to see if there what was the abatement for sales tax.
Right.
And then,
Right.
Agency would probably be contingent. While you're right, the contract may be poorly written. We do have some recourse in whether or not we give them a break on catching up on what they owe us now.
Yeah, because the question would be, so Darius, I think that it's important for us to kind of look into
Yeah.
their business operations, financial structure to see what it is, because I think that's what we originally asked, right? Let's kind of find out where they are from the standpoint of their own balance sheet. But now the
Yep.
balance sheet is also attached to this operation there, then maybe what it is that there's a little bit more wiggle room to the agreement, right? As opposed to it just being 10, it could be very well something else because now we see that there's other resources to that.
and
So maybe we can just look into that real quickly and then circle back on,
Sure.
The
For one thing on the sales tax though, whenever the deal closed, the sales tax would have been given exemption if it was given. I don't know that it was for materials that they purchased for the Mount Vernon work that they did to build whatever they built. Going forward, if they're selling product out of Mount Vernon or Yonkers or wherever they're selling product, that issue, there's no abatement on that going forward. That they're paying their sales tax. So that wouldn't have been part of the deal. What it would have been is they would have had to show certain amount of construction jobs if these benefits were given, which we'll do all the due diligence and give you a lot of information before the next meeting so you guys can consider it. But I understand the questions you have, and they're good questions.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were not here when the deal was, none of us were here when the deal was originally done. So that's a great point.
Some of these contracts that we're reading, we just become very astonished at some of the stuff, right? But nevertheless, Mama said, don't look too far in the rearview mirror. Look forward. So we're going to try to do what we can, right? All right, thank you. All right, Fun City.
so an update on Fun City. GDC, who is the owner of what we commonly call the Target Shopping Center, has reached an agreement with TJ Maxx. And so the deal with Fun City to move on is progressing. Fun City is looking to take or to open in June, July of this year. I am working with the planning department and the building department to ensure permits and any necessary land use requirements are dealt with expeditiously. But looks like we'll have a new commercial business operating out of the former Bed Bath & Beyond space on or around end of June, early July.
Just curious, do they sell food?
Not like a Dave and Buster's, so there isn't a restaurant, but they do sell snacks.
I was just wondering, could that possibly draw a restaurant? But I don't know if there's any more retail there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not part of their operations to have a restaurant. They provide snacks.
Okay. So that property is very, very interesting, right? Because there's these layers of agreements between I guess, Ginsburg and them and Target and the city and IDA, right? Because isn't the land owned by IDA or something? There's some intertwining. It's a very complex thing.
As part of the deal, Treasurer Morton, there was a lease-back agreement going back way back when the GNS deal was done, probably in I don't know, late '90s, early 2000s. So
Right.
yes, we are the leaseholder that leases it back as part of that agreement. But it's really in name only for the pilot agreement to be able to be existing way back when. It's required under the law. That's how the deals work. If that
Right.
helps.
Well, it helps, but I mean, I'm still curious. I guess I got to go back now and look at. I looked at it before, and it just was very because when they was having this discussion across the street about the whole possibility of building a hotel
Mhm.
with over the garage.
Best Buy.
Best Buy. We looked into this
Mhm.
to try to figure out, what kind of authority, non-authority, whatever it is that IDA and or the city had with it.
Right.
Yeah, we probably should just look at those to make sure.
So it is structured as a condo type of arrangement. So the Bed Bath and Beyond property, well, soon to be Fun City, has its own pilot, which will expire in 2035. And so more than likely, Ginsburg will come before the board at some point in the future to renegotiate that. But the pilot for that particular unit expires in 2035.
I don't think you said 2020, but I was gonna say we here.
No, I 20, yeah, that's why I tried to say very slowly, 2035,
Okay.
which coincides also with, Target's pilot also expires around that time, 2034, 35, or 36.
What is that one? It's not Bed Bath and Beyond. What's the name?
It would be under either GNS or Ginsburg.
What the
It would be Ginsburg, I believe. GNS sold to
Under-
Ginsburg some years ago.
Yeah, so Ginsburg, it would be under Ginsburg.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. I don't think that's it. Yeah, I don't think that's actually. I think
It
they
has its own
I
entity.
think
Yeah.
it might-
It may be Heritage.
maybe I was gonna say it's heritage.
That's
I was gonna say it's heritage.
Maybe Heritage, yeah,
That's
The heritage north and south.
yes,
So it's those commercial properties,
correct,
Bed Bath and Beyond.
correct.
What
Target.
Target, okay.
Yeah,
Although Target's got a separate too.
correct, correct.
Okay,
It's separate.
gotcha.
So Beth and Beyond has its own Target.
Yeah, because that was the one that I remember when I was looking at it, when I first took over, I was looking at it and I got confused by this whole heritage north and south.
That's
and
big
everything.
too.
I was like, okay, yeah.
Right.
So, all right, we need to,
So the operations for Fun City is, there's an entry fee and then there's, of course, the retail component relative to purchasing of snacks and games and amusements and so on and so forth. So this will be new sales tax revenue to a space that's been vacant for just about 18 months.
Could I just ask a question about that? With Fun City, do they inherit the pilot from Bed Bath and Beyond? That's the way it's structured? So even though the space was vacant, not generating anything, still gets the tax abatement. Now someone else, we don't draw a new agreement for the new vendor that's moving in there?
So it would be the pilot isn't with Bed Bath and Beyond, it's with Heritage, the parent company. So it's on Heritage to do the negotiation with whomever comes in to make it work for them.
Yeah.
So that they can continue making their payments to the city.
Gotcha, okay.
Well, excuse me, to the IDA.
yeah, it's not to the leasing.
Yeah,
Correct.
I understand.
So, all right, so we're gonna follow up on that, keep an eye on it, because we need to, I'm gonna also continue to do some research. That's on it too.
Yep. 229 South Fourth Avenue. That's the space that is directly adjacent to the former National Gear and Piston. So former National Gear and Piston building is now demolished. The building next door to it has an unauthorized tenant in the space. The tenant has no working utilities at all. We received, I received an anonymous,
Have working utilities? Or they haven't had them since we knocked down the other.
correct.
since knocking down.
Since knocking down.
Don't have any.
Correct. So now they don't.
So my additional question, so were they basically subleasing from
Correct.
National Piston?
Correct.
Like, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
continue.
Correct. And so.
So they
And-
broke up, they went into the.
Well, they're not, they don't have any utilities, no running water, no lights, no anything.
Because that property got demolished.
Because that building,
Originally, that was connected. Okay.
Correct.
I'm gonna let you.
and so in January 15th, I received an anonymous tip that this business is operating there. We sent out the Department of Buildings, we sent out the fire department because the person who reported it said they smelled gas. They were walking by, they smelled gas as the door was open. Person is in there operating an auto repair shop. The Department of Buildings, myself, fire department, visited the space. We verbally told the unauthorized occupant that you're not to be there, shut down. He's done that. He's been closed. And so I now present this to the board to what actions we then need to take to ensure that this guy does not re-enter. So
Also, we own the building?
we own the building.
We, as
As
the
an
IDA.
IDA, it's an IDA owned property.
This is a gift that just keeps on giving. This never stops.
Right.
So I mean, I think, go ahead.
No, well, so that's probably something that we should discuss in executive session with council to get a legal opinion on. I don't know that we need to have that discussion in a public forum about what our intents are to handle a legal matter.
Okay.
So if it's pressing and we want to do that now, I would make a motion to go into executive session.
Well, why don't we do this? Let's, well, I guess we
We'll do the
could.
rest of the agenda.
Yeah,
and come back to it.
Yeah, let's come back to that. Let's come back to that. But I agree that we need to have a very, conversation because this does become a very legalese kind of a process.
Well, yeah, it's, yeah.
So, yeah, so let's pull that towards the end of the process. We'll come
I
back.
need Darius for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if he's available, he'll call in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Standardization of the cost benefit analysis. So I'll just start off with, one, as you know, we talked about this in previous meetings that, we needed to try to really get some standardization around how we are approaching cost benefit analysis. And also that I think the assessor also brought up before that we probably should look at our UTEP again and begin to kind of really update it once, again. We did it before, but we realized that the way we're doing things now, leaves a whole lot of room
Yeah.
for growth, right? And really may very well be causing the city more kind of financial strain than we want to accept on it. So one of the things that we need to do it expeditiously because there seems to be these projects that seem to be in the pipeline, right? That are coming and requesting for abatements, right? For financial assistance on their projects. And I do know that one of those things was that the mayor, I think, sent a letter. I believe she sent a letter. I think it got held. I think she sent a letter to the council about the process and that IDA needing to be in the front of the process,
Yeah.
right? As rather than on the back end. And I think it got held at one of the meetings. I don't know if they took it up at this last meeting or not, on it. But in addition to that, also, what we had decided we would do is also begin to kind of talk with other IDAs, specifically those that we knew who had seemingly got a formula together that was successful for their communities and how they kind of went about doing it. So, one, the assessor and I actually did reach out to
Worcester.
Portchester. because when we went to the academy, we were kind of really impressed with their ability to be able to do a variety of projects, both affordable and market rate, as well as business
Mhm.
and it worked well economically for their community. We did meet with them. We did meet with their chair and their executive director, had a Zoom meeting quickly trying to get some baseline on what they're doing. I sent out yesterday, 2 documents that they gave to us.
Yeah.
Their actual amended UTEP, and then also there was a mitigation kind of an analysis study kind of that they had done, which we thought was very, very impressive. One of the things that, first of all, I think shocked me and Stephanie was that, and I think Yonkers does it this way too, that they start off at the base of the tax
Mhm.
when the project is being proposed, as opposed to, and we've been asking this question for a few years now about this whole shelter rent thing and why we are actually using shelter rent. And so they use this kind of base of what the taxes are at the time when there's no development there. And then actually there's these incremental increases that occur over the span of it, right? But what was even more impressive was the fact that they had a third party entity to actually do this study, and which we thought might be something that Mount Vernon may want to consider, right? As a part of it, because then we get some experts to kind of come in and really help us and really look at it and kind of give us a roadmap for us to be able to then make some real sound kind of decisions on what is happening. What we did get out of it was that it actually is, whatever we decide is unique to our own community. Right. While we can look at all of the research and everything else that's happening around us, at the end of the day, we got to take that as a part of the informing process,
Mhm.
and then look at what uniquely is going to work for our process, for our community as a whole. Right. What we do know is what we currently do is not what we can continue to do. Right. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
On that. The question is for the board, what's the next steps and how do we kind of get moving on this quickly, especially given the fact that we got some stuff coming.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to open it up kind of with that.
Yeah, I came in actually, I think it was the morning that it arrived in it was like 12:30 a.m. So I didn't get a chance to look at their UTEP. I went over the urbanomics analysis. This school, Mount Vernon Schools, has a demographic study. They use demographics, and they're not that much different from what the urbanomics reports for Portchester. There's declining enrollment.
Mhm.
It looks like I'll look more closely at it, but I like their process. It's a rational process. What they're trying to do is come up with, they did some modeling and they're trying to prove their concept that it has predictive validity. So
Right.
that it's a repeatable process. Every once in a while, we probably have to recalibrate it. But if you can come up with something like that is accurate and reliable and fair, then I think it's a good thing to do. Like the last few projects that came through, you had different multipliers for different projects. And you're right, you don't want to have that. You want something that's, as I said, conservative and fair. So I think this is a great start. You're right, I don't know how long it will take them to do a study like this in Mount Vernon. I don't know. Did Portchester tell you how long it took them to do this one?
I don't remember.
I don't think they did.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wasn't long,
Yeah,
3 to 6 months, maybe.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you probably missed a couple, but I think it's a good thing to do. I do. I think it looks like a good system. I'm gonna look more closely at it.
So I see. So my, I guess, bringing it up was to get the board's kind of general, opinion that maybe what we do is to at least reach out to them and try to get some understanding. At some point, we would have to, we agree we want to move forward. We would have to also develop, as they did, kind of an RFP on it. They think, Portchester thinks that it's just going to end up being sole source anyway, because they end up being probably the people that really are the ones that everybody goes to, but we'll still have to go through kind of, we need to go through our correct procurement process
Right.
on it. I want to get a sense of how much, what they think is going to be the cost for it, because then that you would need to know that in order for us to move forward. Makes sense?
With putting the bid together and everything else, yeah.
Okay. All right. So along those lines, I think that is this, because I know that Dr. McDonough actually sent some information too.
Yeah, so that I guess would be new business. And thank you for the responses. We don't need to touch on all those because I know one of the questions had to do with Harris Beach, and I think Darius sent a proposal for making changes on how those fees are accounted for. So I think we should wait until we look at that. The third one, I guess I just am curious about this 90% AMI being considered market rate. That just strikes me as very, very odd because they're not the same thing. So I'm not sure in what world you can say, oh, in this project, 90% is equivalent to market rate because it's not.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not the same.
Mr. McDonough, yeah, I talked to Victoria yesterday. So Darius here. I talked to her yesterday. I looked at the old documents. So I think you were right. In the application, it talked about affordable. In all the transactional documents, it's talked about a mixed income project. There was the statement on the website that said market rate, and there was Ms. Storrs' report that said market rate. Her report showed the right exact numbers that were proposed in the pro forma by the applicant. There was a number of Excel spreadsheets that provided as the pro forma. And then the market rate, there was an asterisk in the pro forma that said it's 90% of AMI. That didn't translate into Ms. Storrs' report way back when. But yes, you are correct about that issue, but they did qualify and say why they considered it market, what their definition was vis-a-vis that project was. So, I did talk to her. She could submit something if the board wanted to clarify, but that's sort of the history to it was notified in their submission of the pro forma of what the market rate meant, what the exact numbers were, which were accurate in Ms. Storrs' report. She said it wouldn't have changed the report one way or the other either from her perspective, but that's the history to it.
Yeah, I think the web, that was my question about the website. Because most people who happen to be interested in this, they wouldn't know that. By looking at that, they wouldn't know that market rate is really 90% AMI when they look at that. There are not a lot of people who do what I do, foil documents, dig deep into applications. That's the only reason I knew it. But so for a public facing document like the website, I think it's important that it's accurate. And that's the reason why I raise it. So, and I understand what you're saying, Darius, about the Storrs report. That didn't really worry me because it wasn't that material, but the website, I think, should be reflective of what the project actually
Right. And when we're updating the website, we really are relying on the documents that are submitted in order to populate the website. So
we could change that wording though, Robin, I think pretty quickly. Just say it's a affordable / mixed income project. So if anyone looks at it there, it's 100% accurate.
So I just want to be clear, affordable / mixed income is the
I'll
language.
talk to you. Yeah, I think, Yep.
Yeah, I mean, mixed income is a very loose term. I think most people think of mixed income generally think of a range of incomes up to and including market rate incomes. In fact, the sort of that model that the state and other communities look at is mixed income, where often the majority of the units are market rate and a smaller percentage are affordable. But it entails some mix of market rate and affordable. So for me, calling it mixed income, if all of the incomes are affordable, isn't really accurate. right? To me, it is. And I understand why developers like to do that. I've been battling with the city council over current projects that like to use mixed income. It sounds better. I understand from marketing
For marketing
purposes.
purposes.
But however, I'm interested in technical accuracy, and I think that it's more accurate to say it's an affordable project. That's what it is, right? The 90% AMI is a restricted income bracket. It's not market rate. So that's my feeling on it. Be as accurate and transparent about it as possible. But
Okay.
your website. So. The other thing was, and we don't need to go deep into this, that first question, it was really about, and the reason I attached some of the analytics that I've done to just illustrate the funding gap that is borne by the school district using just a few projects in 1 year. That's a gap that has to be carried by other taxpayers in the community. And the question was, can the current UTEP, which I think you revised in 2022, be applied to projects that existed prior? It sounds like
No.
It sounds like no. Right. So it's sort of their grandfather, their whatever UTEP was
Yeah.
in
You
effect.
can't retroactively
Right.
alter agreements.
Got it. If we find cause to revise an agreement for somebody, renegotiate an agreement with somebody, at that time, the current UTEP would apply.
Well,
Not necessarily.
there would have to be something, I'm thinking, that would trigger to have that conversation about renegotiation, which would in fact bore a whole new agreement. So,
So basically you would need something that would nullify the.
correct, the old agreement,
Being done, fine.
yeah. And we really don't,
And legal fees trying to get out of it, then you would say.
more than likely, they wouldn't come to the table to say, hey, we want to do something different unless it's going to be something that's brand new.
And, my
Yeah.
interest is really twofold. One, that question, if we
Correct.
can get anything to close that gap from the past, we can. It sounds like we can. The other is the future, trying to predict for the school
Correct.
district the impact by looking at pilot payments and current enrollment, so we can make predictions for our budget in the future.
Right.
Sounds like there's almost a solution available with the urbatronics.
Yeah, that'll.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're gonna definitely have to zone in on this and work from different, all cylinders kind of moving, so we can get to that, because we
Gotcha.
recognize that, what we've done, we can't do. Okay. All right, anything else? Any other new business? If not,
No.
Board of Agency, Council, is there anything that you all have? No?
No.
All right, so then is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move to go into executive session to get a legal opinion on a matter concerning an IDA property.
I second it.
Probably moving second. Roll call.
roll call. Treasurer Morton,
Aye.
Member Vanderpool,
Aye.
and Member Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, we are going
So-
to executive session.
Darius, we'll
I'll-
have to call you
I'll
again.
you in on my cell phone.
Okay, I'm here. Okay, I'll just hang up and then I'll get on the cell phone.
Ready? All right, so the motion to come out of executive session?
I make a motion to come out of the executive session at 11:08. Yeah.
I say.
Okay, calling the roll, Treasurer Morton,
Aye.
Member Vanderpool,
Aye.
and Member Johnson.
Aye. All right, so we had a discussion about this property at 229 South Fourth Avenue. And that they were going to proceed with all of the necessary steps to ensure that the property is vacated. All right. That's it. Anything else?
Anything else?
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
Okay, and roll call, Treasurer Morton,
Aye.
Member Vanderpool, and Member Johnson.
Aye.
Meeting concludes at 11:09 a.m. on Thursday, February 13th.
Thank you all. Have a great day.